You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. Quite a show today, so fasten your seatbelts. In addition to our Inside the Headlines section and our Surrealism Corner, we debut a new brief featurette, which I'm calling A Word from My Lower Self. You know, you try to sustain your magnanimity and your attempts to go high, but at certain moments you just have to temporarily suspend them and vent like hell. So, then my guest for an in-depth, extended, cover many subjects conversation is the righteous babe herself, DiFranco. We talked so long and went so deep that this turned into a 2-part interview, with the second part coming next week. Yeah, that wide-ranging. Ani said she'd never before been asked some of these questions, and wow, did she ever rise to the occasion. So all that's coming right up, but first we need to go inside the headlines. A few days ago, the front page of the New York Times captioned a photo of a bedraggled, weeping woman with her quote, "I feel like God is punishing us." I can't remember now whether she was a survivor of Hurricane Harvey or Irma or Maria, or of one of the accompanying tornadoes, or of one of the fires raging out west, or even if she was an American, since Nepal, parts of India, Bangladesh, and elsewhere in Southeast Asia are experiencing record monsoons and flooding, and Mexico City is staggering through wreckage and bodies left in the wake of a record-setting killer earthquake. I do remember wanting to try and comfort that woman across time and space, and wanting to tell her, doubtless unhelpfully, that some God had nothing to do with it, but that science, sure as hell, had warned us all. Then again, she was never permitted the choice or the power to respond to that warning, and those who had and have the choice and the power ignored and still ignore it. Hard times, my friends. I won't waste energy today on Trump's obscene speech at the United Nations, and I'm pausing my comments about every twitch in the Russia case that will bring him down, because there are just too many coming too fast, and they're not yet of the required severity to accomplish the task. The accumulation of these details, however, is at once horrifying and encouraging, if you know what I mean. Instead, I want to sweep up some crumbs of news that keep getting overlooked, or that do get reported but aslant, such as a new study from the International Labor Organization and the Walk Free Foundation, in partnership with the International Organization for Migration, reported that 40 million people around the world, mostly women and girls, were being held in modern slavery in 2016. About 20 million were in forced labor, and 15 million were in forced marriage. Women and girls accounted for 71%, that is, 29 million, of those trapped in modern slavery. The new estimates, released during the United Nations General Assembly in New York, also found that about 152 million children between age 5 and 17 were subject to child labor. Women represented 99% of the victims of forced labor in the commercial sex industry, and 84% of those in forced marriages. Child labor remained concentrated primarily in agriculture, but almost 1 in 5 child laborers work in the service sector, at 17.1%, while 11.9% of child laborers worked in industry. Right now, this minute, this is happening. Meanwhile, the item that is the heartbreaking disappointment of the hour is that Nobel Peace Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi, in her first public statement since the crisis over the persecution of the Rohingya in her country began in August, made vague noises condemning all human rights violations, but refused to acknowledge any responsibility for the actions of Myanmar's armed forces. Although she is the titular head of government, she may be being forced by the military to take such a position. But this is a woman of great courage. At least previously she was. And her statement doesn't sound forced. In fact, she defended the government's so-called development efforts in the Rohingya areas, and she attributed other reports that it was ethnic cleansing to false news. The United Nations itself has described what is happening to the Muslim minority Rohingya population as ethnic cleansing, and called it atrocities. Satellite images show over 200 of their villages incinerated since March, and over 400,000 refugees have fled to Bangladesh since August. You know that the world is on serious tilt when Buddhists are committing atrocities. But they apparently have help. Facebook has been suspending and even removing posts documenting the ethnic cleansing of the Rohingya. In Iran, President Hassan Rouhani, who campaigned as a reformer and was carried to victory in a 24 million vote mandate last May by progressive forces that were mostly composed of women and students, well, he's now backtracking. It looks certain that he cannot or will not fulfill his promise to appoint women and young politicians to his 18-member cabinet. He controls cabinet choices, but the conservative cleric, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, still calls the real shots. Khamenei has publicly admonished the president to pay attention to the people's problems, which today are primarily the economy and living conditions, and to stay away from, quote, social change issues. Gee, he sounds like Bernie Sanders. Still, women persist, and still progress inches forward, although sometimes it feels as if it does so imperceptibly. So let's perceive it whenever we can. Last Sunday, before the earthquake devastated Mexico City, thousands and thousands of women and a few men marched across cities all over Mexico, demanding action from the government against femicide. This was after the body of yet another woman, age 19, was found. She had gone missing a week earlier after using a ride-hailing app in the Mexican state of Puebla. In Puebla alone, at least 83 women have been killed since the beginning of this year, and 60% of women and children over age 15 report having been sexually abused at least once. Mexican women say they will not stop marching until women and children are safe. Tunisia has abolished a decades-old ban on Muslim women marrying non-Muslims. This is part of President Essebsi's drive for equal rights for women. Until now, a non-Muslim man who wanted to marry a Muslim Tunisian woman had to convert to Islam, while a Muslim Tunisian man was allowed to marry a non-Muslim woman. Tunisia, where the Arab Spring began, seems almost the only country in the region to still be taking the Arab Spring seriously. Meanwhile, of course, the country's leading imams and theologians have denounced the president's proposals as, quote, a flagrant violation of the precepts of Islam. The first president of independent Tunisia, Habib Bourguiba, championed the landmark social code back in 1956 and set a standard for the region in banning polygamy and in granting rights to women that were unheard of in the Arab world at that time. But even he did not dare push for equal inheritance. And today, daughters are still entitled to only half the inheritance given to sons. But the end of the ban follows on the historic vote in Jordan last month, when the lower house of parliament abolished the controversial Article 308 of the Penal Code that allowed sexual assault perpetrators to escape punishment by marrying their victims. And further south, Nigeria has banned female genital mutilation, again due to the activism of feminists there. Taken together, all very good signs. Taken together, a global women's movement. And back here in the good old USA, we can always count on Fox News for consistency. Scotty Hughes, a political commentator who regularly appeared on the network, has come forward as the source of yet another harassment report in a lawsuit filed in a New York federal court. She says that Charles Payne of Fox raped her in 2013, and that her invitations to appear on the network's shows, quote, increased dramatically after the assault, close quote. So the beat goes on while the women keep coming forward. And in a small but satisfying move, a judge revoked the $5 million bail of odious Martin Shkreli, the widely reviled pharmaceutical millionaire who was convicted of fraud, because he used his pre-sentencing time as a free man to put up a $5,000 bounty for one of his sicko fans to rip a hair from Hillary Clinton's head. Now he's in jail, and presumably his fellow inmates will wipe the oily smile off his face. We have to take a quick break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, but coming right up is the Surrealism Corner and a new short feature called A Word from My Lower Self. And after that, DiFranco. So stay with us.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And now it's time to pop into the Surrealism Corner. The federal flood insurance program has paid more than $1.8 million to repeatedly rebuild a single house in Kingwood, Texas. The house has been flooded 22 times since 1979, and Hurricane Harvey was the last straw. Finally, the homeowner wants out. But it sure makes you wonder just who the homeowner was. Yet the Wall Street Journal, which reported the story, was mum on that. Last July, before voting to release O.J. Simpson from prison after 9 years, the Nevada Parole Board discussed at length the robbery that had put him behind bars as well as his conduct as an inmate. However, it's now come to light that one piece of his record escaped notice of the board, the news media, and most of the millions of people watching on TV and online. During the hearing, members of the Nevada Board of Parole Commissioners said that before his 2008 conviction for robbery, Simpson had no history of a criminal conviction. That was not true. He was acquitted in 1995, as everyone knows, of the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. And of course, a civil jury in Los Angeles had found him responsible for the murders, but that didn't count. Still, back in 1989, he had pleaded no contest in Los Angeles to misdemeanor battery of Nicole Brown Simpson, who was then his wife. The Nevada Parole Board apparently didn't have that information, so agency officials said. So the 1989 conviction wasn't considered when a 4-member panel voted unanimously to release Simpson. It's not clear why the 1989 case failed to turn up in the federal system, and California court officials said they had no explanation. The 1989 case was reported by news media at the time, and it had a fresh round of attention when Simpson became a suspect in the 1995 murders. In the earlier case, prosecutors charged that on New Year's Day at the Simpson home in Los Angeles, O.J. Simpson punched, kicked, and slapped his wife while yelling, "I will kill you." Though he first denied the accusations, he pleaded no contest to one count of spousal battery. The charge carried a maximum sentence of a year in jail, but the judge opted not to incarcerate the celebrity, instead ordering him to perform community service and receive counseling. Had that same celebrity's status anything to do with the information not turning up later in the federal system? when it might have impeded his parole? If you've been getting into arguments with well-meaning liberals lately about raising the word impeachment too soon, are you being scolded? Are you being scolded that impeachment is a rare and very serious process and you cannot just fling it around? Well, first, you damn well can fling it around. And second, in recent decades, it's become almost a regular feature of our democracy. Since World War II, the textbook model of a presidency is getting eclipsed a bit. John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Richard Nixon faced impeachment by the House and resigned rather than be convicted imminently by the Senate. Ronald Reagan was threatened with impeachment over his role in the Iran-Contra affair. Or have we forgotten that? How short our national memory is. Bill Clinton was impeached, but not convicted. George W. Bush, though not impeached, was seen as illegitimate by many, myself among them, because it depended on disputed votes in the 2000 election in Florida, all those hanging chads. Obama, of course, 2 terms, 8 years, without a breath of scandal, squeaky clean. Remember that? So at least let's not go all kerfluffle about someone raising the subject of impeachment too soon or too often, because impeachment is beginning to seem as common in the United States as a no-confidence vote is in a parliamentary system. Both get rid of an unwanted leader. So no one should be afraid to utter the I word. And once Special Counsel Mueller drops the first shoe of this centipede, why, we might start shouting that word. Last, a new poll from the University of Pennsylvania's Annenberg Public Policy Center reveals how shockingly little people know about even the most basic elements of our government and the Constitution that formed it. For example, more than 1 in 3 people, that's 37%, could not name a single right protected by the First Amendment. Only 1 in 4, 26%, could name all 3 branches of the government. 1 in 3, 33%, could not name any branch of government. None. Zip. Nada. A majority, 53%, believe that the Constitution affords undocumented immigrants no rights whatsoever, although, of course, everybody in the United States is entitled to due process of law and the right to make their case before the courts, at least. Nor is this new, although it's getting worse. For example, the Pew Research Center poll from 2010. When asked to name the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, less than 3 in 10, that's 28%, correctly replied John Roberts. That compares unfavorably to the 43% who rightly named William Rehnquist as the Chief Justice in a Pew poll back in 1986. By the way, what did the 72% of people who did not name Roberts as Chief Justice in 2010 say instead? Well, a majority, 53%, said they just didn't know. Duh. 8% guessed Thurgood Marshall, who was never a Chief Justice and, perhaps more to the point, had been dead for 17 years when the poll was taken. Another 4% named Harry Reid. No wonder some Americans voted, if they voted at all, for Trump, who knows as little as they do. America now celebrates ignorance and can't tell the real from the surreal. Now a word from my lower self. Sean Spicer's surprise appearance at the Emmy Awards was met with confused, scattered applause and a lot of dropped, gaping jaws. Well, I'm among those people who are, like Queen Victoria, not amused. While a clever gambit having him hype the Emmy Award audience as the largest ever, using identical language to his absolute lie about attendance at Trump's inauguration, it will only help him in his attempted public rehabilitation process. His Emmy appearance sends the message that this is all in good fun and life is just an unreality show where nothing is real or everything is, so nothing matters. Haha, get it? It also helps excuse the man and even makes him likable, a man who repeatedly, forcefully lied to the American public while he was the official voice of the United States White House. He demeaned his job as White House press secretary, and in so doing demeaned American journalism, helping the attack against individual journalists and against the institution of a free press itself. Now, these days, he demands $50,000 a lecture appearance, plus God knows how much he'll ask for a tell-all, or should I say, lie-all book. Whatever the sum, certainly it's far more than a writer who tries to tell the truth would be able to ask for. Some people say, we should feel sorry for him, given the humiliations Trump ground into him while he clung to his sadistic boss, begging for more. I do pity Spicer. But I don't confuse him with the sycophantic, maddened character that Melissa McCarthy somehow brilliantly imbued with pitiable vulnerability. And I know that to treat his tenure at the White House as something to spin off from at the Emmys only furthers a process of normalizing words and acts by the Trump regime that are systematically trying to destroy our republic. Gee, I must be one of those pitiless harpies, those feminists who can't take a joke. Yeah, and that's no joke. We need to take another quick break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and we'll return with my in-depth, wide-ranging conversation with Ani DiFranco. It's hearing her in a way neither you nor I had ever heard her before.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again. Ani DiFranco, for those of you who have been on Jupiter with the Cassini's spacecraft and who don't know, Ani is an American singer-songwriter, a multi-instrumentalist, a poet, and a businesswoman. She has released more than 20 albums to critical acclaim, and through the Righteous Babe label, which she founded when she was only 18 years old. She's been nominated 4 consecutive times for Best Recording Package at the Grammys, winning in 2004 for Evolve. And in 2006, she received the Woman of Courage Award at the National Organization for Women Conference and the Young Feminist Summit in Albany, New York. Now, not many people have received both a Grammy and a Now citation as a Woman of Courage, and, I might add, a Woody Guthrie Award for being a voice of positive social change. She has collaborated with such musicians as Pete Seeger and Prince. That's quite a range. And her music has been called, folk rock and alternative rock, but she's reached across genres, and she's incorporated punk and funk and hip-hop and jazz influences. She's quite a rebel. She's a strong feminist, an out bisexual, an out atheist. Her subject matter is strongly political, with many of her songs dealing with racism and sexism and sexual abuse, with homophobia and reproductive rights and poverty and war. And she's currently touring for her brand new record, Binary, and will be at Babe Fest, which she founded as a women's concert in October in Provincetown. So here is, fresh from the tour, Ani DiFranco, in the first of a 2-part interview, in depth, and she's a delight. Hey, Ani, welcome to the program.
Robin, hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, welcome, welcome. Listen, this is like having a long-lost sister come home, as far as I'm concerned. I want to make one.
I brought my laundry. I hope that's okay.
Naturally, but of course, what else? If you've been on tours, well, what else is new?
Yeah, really.
No, some time ago, I want to make this really clear. Some time ago, you wrote a wonderful open letter to Ms. magazine. Because they had, done a little thing on you, and they had been overly impressed by the fact that you were also a businesswoman, and you set up a business and it made a profit, and you wrote this plaintive, lovely, hurt but not whiny letter saying, "Hello, I'm an artist," and it ended, broke my heart. It said, if I drop dead tomorrow, tell me my gravestone won't read Annie D, CEO. Please let it read songwriter, music maker, storyteller, freak. Oh, my darling, I want you to know I was not editor-in-chief of Ms. at that point. I had left. That was not funny. Done on my watch.
Yeah, well, you only criticize the ones you love, or you only react to the ones you care about, so Ms. in any era, I think, is just a blessing on this earth. And so, my whole life I've been called entrepreneur, which is really ironic for me.
Yeah.
But when Ms. got on that boat, I was like, well, here's somebody I can engage with, a publication that will understand when I say, yeah, no, that's not it.
Yeah, no, missed the point a bit entirely. Yeah.
Right.
Well, you expect better. You have different standards. You expect better from, And in fact, I wanted to ask you though, because, you were a kid. My God, you were 18. It takes my breath away when you started Righteous Babe Records. And, for you said feh to the corporatization, if there is such a word, of music. And you went on. Was there did you know about, much less was there inspiration or influence that you felt from Olivia Records or Michigan Women's Music Festival, the various feminist, music world pioneering stuff that we were all doing back in the 70s and 80s. Did you even know about that, or did you reinvent the wheel?
Well, I did know about it, as a matter of fact, and they were my first supporters.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, Lady Flipper, Goldenrod, all of this.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just old enough that I remember first of all, I remember record stores.
Oh, me too.
And second of all, right, and then I remember when there was a section in the record store called women's music.
Oh, you betcha.
Where you put all the feminists, certainly all the types. You put anybody who smacks of feminism over and is probably a dyke or something.
Yes.
You put them over there in the bin called women's music in the back corner behind the cooler.
That's right.
And so that's where I started, was in that bin, and I had great company and great allies, in those women's music distributors. They were the first semblance of distribution I had, and the only people out there who seemed to understand, like you just articulated, which that I was opting to not go for, the record contract with the record company, though I was offered a few along the way. Not because I'm a control freak or I was scared of this or that, but because I just looked at that whole world, that whole system, and I thought, exactly, what did you just say? Yeah, the corporatization of music.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not
Don't
good.
want to be a part of it, even if it serves me in the short term, Just I know there's got to be another way to be an artist on the planet and to sort of be able to live your ideals, not just through your art, but in the context that surrounds it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, naturally. I mean, I was just at a book festival recently, and a publisher, a representative of a very mainstream house was there, and he was talking about books as consumer items. And I finally, the top of my head came off and bonked against the ceiling and hit, went straight through and made a hole. And I said, excuse me. And this is happening, of course, more and more to writers, to musicians, my son is a musician, Blake Morgan, and he started the I Respect Music movement, so that musical artists would get paid. He heard a speech of yours that I haven't heard, but a speech at the A2IM Awards on where he said it was bloody brilliant on where do we go from here if music is free? How do they expect artists to eat air? At the same time, they think all musicians and a couple of writers like, you should excuse the words, Dan Brown, they think we're all polishing our golden hubcaps when in fact we're still keeping the wolf, if at all, away from the door, maybe 2 steps. Particularly political ones. Where do we go from here if everything is free?
Oh boy, I can't imagine what brilliant thing I might have said that day, because I just don't really know. I mean, I just sort of keep coming back to the core of, when you are following the right path, when you are doing what you are meant to do, when you are pursuing your life's question, the universe will hold you. And that's all that I know to do, When I started going on this independent path in music, I didn't have a plan. People thought I was some kind of genius with a scheme, but I was really, all I knew was what I didn't want to participate in, and the rest was like daily, do I go left or left and a half?
But your instincts were damn good.
Yeah, and my instincts, to summarize them, were, don't go in the place where, maybe you make the biggest paycheck or you get the biggest exposure or where the universe says you should go, because that's what a professional music career looks like. Right. Go where your teachers are, And what happened was I didn't find teachers per se in the music industry spheres. I found teachers in Utah Phillips and Gloria Steinem and Pete Seeger and all these people out in left field. Right. And the more that I just went there and followed them and said, how can I help you? The more the universe provided for me and made a space for me. So, I don't think it's ever been easy, to be a writer, to be an artist, a musician.
Of course not.
And put food in your own mouth. But it's certainly not getting easier, it's like it's getting easier and harder at the same time. So I think really you just have to stay on the core of if all you can do is this work that you must do, then you do it and somebody will take care of you.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is true. And we do build community over the years. I mean,
right.
And see each other and give back that seeing so that for one thing, we know we're here, particularly with the moron in the White House, talk about, you choose which first, either Binary, which is the new record, the 20th plus record, and or Babe Fest, which is also originally your baby. You're spewing off these amazing, energetic, what I love about your life and your career is that it's a seamless one. I mean, there's the art, there's the politics, there's the activism, there's the music, and that's the kind of life that I've tried to live, and I recognize it, and I know it's not easy, particularly when you have kids, but you're doing it, and I just love you for that. So take off on Babe Fest, for example.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, Babe Fest. It's going to be our second annual. Coming right up here, and like you say, my sort of mission, I've always felt inside myself that the activism and the art are one and the same. People always ask about the dichotomy or the duality or and I always think, wow, it's just it's just my way of trying to connect with other people, trying to lift myself and somebody with me, or trying to, so it all seems to come from the same motivation for me, and it just sort of manifests in these different ways. So for me, it's all been one pursuit.
And you founded Babe Fest? You
Right. So we thought, gosh, what more can I do to sort of, help build the momentum of other people out there who are creative, get political, who are engaged with society, and want to make all of these, endeavors one thing and build momentum that way. So Babe Fest started last year as just a yearly gathering where activists and creatives can come together and see how much energy we can sort of get resonating between us.
Well, I think you're going to levitate at this point, given the energy. It's October 8th at Town Hall in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Rise Up Music Community Activism, with special performances by Andrea Gibson, Ray Sani, Gracie, and Rachel, of course yourself. And is it sold out completely, or are there tickets available still? Well,
I don't know. I haven't heard that, so I think there's tickets available.
Okay, all right.
Be fun.
Yeah, so remember that, listeners. Babe Fest, October 8th in Provincetown. Now, let's get to Binary, the new one. I just finished a book of poems which will be out in May, and I know from my own feelings that there's a special place in one's heart for the cake newly out of the oven and still warm. So talk talk about the newest record.
I mean, for me personally, I like this better than most of my records. I mean, the new one, like you say, always has a special place for an artist, but this one also, I mean, I've made a lot of records in less than ideal circumstances, sort of like, folk singer alone in a metalhead studio working with the house engineer in some suburban strip mall,
Oh, God, yes.
I mean, I can't even tell you all of these sort of circumstances in which I've made records and didn't know what I was doing necessarily, but just determined to do it, damn it, and not worry about, I don't need to call in the professionals, I'm just going to do it.
You put one foot in front of the other.
Right. Sometimes it worked out. Sometimes I made pretty cool recordings. Oftentimes it didn't, and I guess I would have to say one of my biggest regrets at remaining independent for my whole career is sometimes I look back, especially in terms of the recordings, which sort of there are the songs for posterity after I leave this mortal coil, and sometimes I wish I had brought in the professionals because I don't think I did songs justice on recording every time. But this record, I had an amazing team, and it made all the difference in the world. I was working with top-notch musicians who I said very little to, except here's a song, goes like this. And then they brought their expertise, their spirits to the table. I had a great recordist in Mike Napolitano, who's also my husband. Yeah. And an amazing mixer, which I'd never done before. I hired Chad Blake, who is an incredible producer and mixer of records, and somebody I've been a fan of for decades. And I just thought, I wonder what it would be like to not mix my own damn record for once. And the answer is just tremendous.
Wow. So the production values are on this one are special. It's a luxury you've never had before.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Having people sort of help me, 20 records in, it's like, can I get some help translating what I do? Oh, great. Thank you.
When when you're so used to doing it yourself and the hard way because there's been no other way, it's hard sometimes to even imagine that that there's a smoother route. And then when there is, you sort of fall on your ass and think, oh my God, was that there all along? Yeah. And you're
right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I do.
And if you had to characterize this one, how would you explain it? I've only had a couple of quick listens, so I wouldn't hold forth yet.
Yeah.
But how would you characterize this?
How would I characterize it? I mean, I guess I'm sort of exploring some sort of fundamental ideas on this record. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think back to my other records, and maybe those were more of what happened this week and, the sort of political or personal foibles of the moment. But I guess maybe I'm getting old or something because I'm thinking in very primary colors these days, and binary, for instance, the title track is,
right.
It just, I mean, I used it to title the whole record because I think the themes kind of recur in all the songs. Just kind of looking at the world as not a series, but a conglomeration of relationships. I think it's the feminist in me on one hand, and then just the sort of the older, hopefully somewhat sort of wiser person that's been on the planet now for about 47 years, just going, wow, nothing exists on its own.
Yeah.
We exist, of course, people have been saying this since time immemorial, we exist in relationship to each other. And it's funny to have used, the word binary in that sense, to say that nothing is a singularity. We are all, each thing that appears as a singularity is really a binary system, at least.
Right.
Of course. And so it's, I'm sort of coming at it from this angle. And then, of course, I didn't even think that binary is such a sort of code word now for, queer politics and the transgender movement that's saying binary bad. And I'm saying,
but you mean
binary everywhere all the time.
Yeah, you mean it in a very specific way. It's very. I don't think. I think that's different. I think that's a.
Yeah.
You're talking about interrelatedness.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Saying the same thing from the opposite direction. You know, I'm saying there is no such thing as girl and boy. We are all both.
Yeah, well, there's also, there's a particle. I'm a absolute science geek, a total amateur, but I love the metaphors are just themselves. And it is real. Right. I mean, it's not a, old man up on a white throne with a long beard or something. I mean, it's the way the universe actually works. And there are two, there's a subparticle that, it is a twin of itself, and they can be in different solar systems, and they are the same. When something happens to one of them, the same thing happens to the other one at the same time. I mean, if that doesn't blow your mind, and make you think, who needs altars and gods when the universe has this kind of wonder and mystery to it? Then I don't know what would blow your mind beyond that. We have to pause here because of time constraints, but my conversation with Ani DiFranco continues next week when she and I discuss touring, parenting, feminist writers she loves like Zora Neale Hurston, the death penalty, the Righteous Babe Foundation she founded, the extraordinary intimacy that exists between her and her audience and her fans, the issues of monogamy and non-monogamy, and Ani's greatest regret and greatest pride in life. That's next week. For now, we need to take just a short break. This is Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I'll be right back with some fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And welcome back again to some fighting words. The genuine article. I've been thinking a lot lately about what passes for real in our current funhouse mirror of a country that's not so much fun. Where do you begin in a context of alternative facts having to be rebutted with a straight face, and where prefacing any statement with the words truly or trust me automatically signals that those words will be followed by a lie? Of course, a serious truckload of blame should be landed on the shoulders of Trump, Mitch McConnell, and the political climate in general, and our celebrity-obsessed so-called reality TV culture. But we're all of us complicit. All of us have fed in small or large ways into a long-growing trend toward legitimizing fake reality. And all of us have to take some responsibility for that, or else we can't turn it around. For example, deconstructionism. Distinguished academics, yea, even some distinguished feminist academics, flocked to adopt this trendy theory that has now spread its poisonous mold as an influence over much academic thinking. Now, for those of you who have always gone sensibly brain numb upon hearing the word deconstruction, or for those of you who think it means demolishing community buildings to make way for gentrification upper-class housing, well, yes, but no. Deconstructionism, to put it simply, is a 20th century school of philosophy initiated by Jacques Derrida in the 1960s. It's a theory of literary criticism that questions traditional assumptions about certainty, identity, and truth. It insists that words can only refer to other words. You got that? And it tries in obfuscated ways to demonstrate how statements about any text subvert their own meanings. Got that? Lost you? Well, not to descend into guilt by association, but mindful that the company we keep does tell quite a bit about us. It should be noted that Derrida acknowledged the influence on his work of Martin Heidegger, who was an early supporter of Nazism in Germany, and also that Derrida claimed Friedrich Nietzsche, the little German sunbeam who was a fascist before the word fascism was coined, that he was a forerunner of deconstruction. Last, but contemporarily, Steve Bannon is a great admirer of deconstructionist theory. Of course, when applied in the classroom, the deconstructionist fad managed to depoliticize what was once women's studies, black studies, Chicano and Asian American, and other specific studies programs. It bundled them all together as ethnic studies. Ethnic meant other. White is not considered ethnic. White is considered human, the generic, as is male. Besides, if nothing's real, then you're not really oppressed, even if you think you are. Feminists were among the first to call out this theory, at least feminists outside of France, notably excluding the rogue philosopher. She was named Simone de Beauvoir, and she opposed it. And fortunately, deconstructionism's faddishness in academia here has begun to fade. Well, it can't fade fast enough for me. Ta-da! Derrida. Other real examples of fake real? Well, remember the white European-American woman Rachel Dolezal, who managed to pass herself off for years as an African-American? Talk about cultural appropriation. Takes your breath away. When her masquerade was finally discovered, she was not even apologetic. In fact, she was defiant, refusing flatly to grasp how the perming of her hair, adopting stereotypical black English phrases, and wearing kente cloth did not bestow upon her the almost cellular grief and knowledge of 500 years of American enslavement of and racism toward black people. She said she so loved black people she wanted to be one of them. There you go. That was her excuse. To me, Some transgender male-to-female folks who adopt the most stereotypical aspects of so-called femininity, aspects that have imprisoned female human beings for millennia, well, they commit the same hurtful offense as did Dolezal. It's mystifying to me. What is wrong with being another, new category, if we must have categories at all? Indigenous cultures have long called people refusing male or female binaries, quote, two-spirited peoples. And in some tribes, they've regarded them with special reverence as having greater insight into the broad human spectrum of existence. In other words, what is wrong with being a brand new real thing instead of being a copy of, an ersatz version of, a knockoff of something else and insisting it's the same? It's not the same. It's different. Why pretend that, however well done, a Roman copy of a Greek original is that it's a Greek sculpture? Why not celebrate difference instead of settling for, even yearning for, mimicry? I also can't help wondering if this uniformity of thought that pretends to be an exploration of variance isn't really deeply opposed to variance, and hasn't been a major influence in corroding the pluralism that makes this country authentically different and genuinely great. I can't help wondering if the hierarchical structures with which we've been so socially programmed make us fear difference because we think it must be ranked as inferior or superior, even if it's neither. Both sexism and racism thrive on the refusal to welcome and celebrate difference. It's up to each of us now to literally make a difference, up to each of us to refuse anything less than we deserve, the genuine article, more and more genuine articles, in fact. Those are my fighting words. Add yours on Twitter, and remember to tag us at WMC Live and use the hashtag #FightingWords. And that's it for today. This program is syndicated, but if you can't find the broadcast on a radio station in your area, you can always visit us at WMCLive.com for the show, plus the archive of all our previous episodes, and at iTunes, where you can stream, download, and subscribe to the show's podcast. Also, be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook and Twitter. And you can check out my website and blog at robinmorgan.net and find me on Facebook and Twitter, too. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton, and our founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us, and don't forget to join us next week right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.